Everybody, Jared here with Shannon Paris. Thought I would give you a. If I'm on, this video is different, and I'm sure some people have noticed a shift in content. That I've been trying to do more show videos, try to upcoming projects I'm working on, stuff like that. But I'm going to address something that I've been asked about, and I feel like it's a good topic because whether we want to admit it or not, drag is tiring. It's but fun, and when you lose the fun of it, it becomes just a chore, and you don't enjoy it like you should. And so I've decided a lot. Like after I competed last season, I competed for Diva, and I decided to not go to that prelim. And in hindsight, I think that was a good decision because think there was a lot of drama that happened. People didn't get their prizes. It was insane that a promoter would take that responsibility and not follow through. Because there are people who, when they win these prizes, they don't you don't really win pageants to do prizes, but the prize money does help, especially if you're going to like nationals, because or even a state pageant. If you cannot pay them, you're even the minimum requirements as far as crown, sash, etc. I just feel like you shouldn't be doing like that. That's why I don't do. I'm not a promoter. I want to be like I want to promote pageants. I want to do a local title at first. I would love to be a prelim owner, but I also know that there's a lot of issues that will happen. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress that goes with doing that. That's I've been told that it's harder to promote than it is to be a contestant. I don't think it takes $10,000, but I guess if you really think about it, paying everybody, paying for trophies, paying for awards, even if you get sponsors, it's still the venue that they're going to allow you to have it there. So I've decided that I was not going to do any more pageants, and it was hard. It was a hard decision, but that was I think a sign that I was not able to do the prelim, and I didn't go to nationals. I did go to Texas back in November of last year, but I didn't place. I got last place, and it was hard. I feel like I tried to do what the judges wanted, and it didn't really work in my favor. And I had a couple of ideas that I would have done if I had decided to go back, but after I decided I wasn't going to compete for anything, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. But I've soon realized that there's a lot of things that I don't compete anymore for a number of reasons. First of all, pageants are tiring. Pageants are expensive. They aren't cheap. Not to say I was never prepared. Like I made sure I had money. I did all that, but it's money that I could have used for something else, something I could do for me. I like to do drag, but sometimes there's things I want to do outside of drag, and that's second. I don't feel like I get a lot of support locally as far as like I see other entertainers in town that compete and they get support. They get that support. They get that help. They get a team behind them, and it's really hard for me to find any of that because I just I've reached out to people, I've asked for help, and it's like talking to a wall. Nothing. Third, I felt like I got to a point where when I first started competing, I was excited. I wanted to do it. And then I came to that realization that pageants really don't mean what they used to me anymore. I realized that I was losing who I was, my essence on stage. I felt like I wasn't being, like I tried to be myself in an interview. I tried to be natural. I tried to be positive, but the things I mentioned, talking about my depression, my anxiety, all those things, I don't view them like they're just things I've had to deal with. And it takes a lot on some days to do half the things I do. I shock the hell out of myself sometimes because there are days where I wake up, even just doing drag is a struggle. But I get up and I do it. This month, I have not missed anything. Every show I said I was going to be a part of, I was at. and I performed, and I did my duties as a performer, and I went on stage, did what I had to do, and I came back. This and it became harder for me to want to do pageants. Like I did, I did do Imperial Pride back in the end of June, but that was more of a court-based pageant. It was, a bought title. It was based off your half of it score was based on fundraising. So I did what I could to fundraise, and yes, I did raise some money prior to the pageant, but I did not raise. I would have loved to raise more. I would have loved to have more support, but I didn't have that. I had some. I didn't have it at Imperial Pride. I did my own face. I dressed myself mostly by myself. Mostly did everything on my own, except for a few things here and there. And it was weird not having a team, because even at a local title where you're not, where there's no stress or pressure, you're still going on stage and you're still doing something. I didn't do flag. I didn't do Frozen. I didn't do any of the things that people associate me with. I went on stage and did the Pride mix that I had, and I thought it was a good mix. It was long, but it was good, and I thought I did the best I could with the time constraint I had. I made that pageant happen in a month and a half, which is less time than than any pageant I've done. Back in June when my drag sister Jackie competed for Sweetheart, I had thought maybe I'll do that next year. But I would want to go prepared. I would want to go with dancers and all that stuff. But I also know that, like, I don't expect to win certain pageants. Like, I know they aren't geared for me to win. Like, like in your heart, deep down. Yes, there are times where you can surprise the audience, you can surprise the crowd, but at the end of the day, some titles, they already know who they want to win based off the list that showed up. They bring in a ringer, and I'm not afraid to call that out. Like, I see it it happens a lot more. It happens more locally than it does, out of state, because a pageant's open. Anybody can just show up and do it. But being a ringer just means that you're the favorite, that you're the one who's expected to win, and if you don't win, yeah. Like when I won Independence Day last year, I did not expect to win. It really threw me for a loop because I had never won anything at frat, and it was I kept going, I kept doing it, and somehow I ended up winning. But at the end of the day, I think not competing anymore has opened up my eyes in different ways. Like, I've learned to watch others and learn what not to do. But not just that, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've I don't I've gotten to a point where I just don't I feel like I'm getting my confidence back on stage. I'm doing what I want to do versus what other people want me to do. And if people don't like what I do on stage, and by no means do I think I'm an expert, by no means think I'm an impersonator. I am none of those things. But I do what I know how to do, and if it goes good, if it goes good. If it doesn't, I move on. Simple as that. That's how it goes. And I'm going to continue to do that because I want to go on stage giving the best version of myself when I go on stage, even if I'm not competing. Because I've learned a long time ago that if you compete, the competition in you is there, but you never know, no matter what show it is, whether it's a court show, a tip spot, a booking, you never know who's watching in the audience. Because that person in the audience might be someone who could book you or could see that you have potential to do more than what you're already doing. And I feel like that's, I want to get more bookings. This month coming up, I have, at my Wednesday shows at the door. Then I have a couple court shows. But other than that, I really haven't. My calendar is fairly open except for Indiana this weekend. So I'm always open for bookings, tip spots. If I'm not doing anything that day, and even if I am doing something that day, let's say someone offers me an actual booking on a Saturday night and I'm doing a court show that night, I'll just say, you know what, I'm gonna go and make my make my coins because drag doesn't pay the bills. I have a full time job. I work a regular job here. We call it, some drag performers call it their muggle job or their day job, but I don't. I call it my day job, but and I use and I use the money I do make to pay bills and take care of myself. If I rely on drag to pay my bills, they never get paid. And I think last week I had a breakthrough on Wednesday night when I got tipped very well for a Wednesday. Like I had not gotten tipped that much ever on a Wednesday, so it was a surprise to me. And I was glad that I performed good, and I went on stage and I had the energy. So being said, it's maybe taking a step back from patterns made me realize that I'm capable of performing great things. It's just you just have to give me a chance to do it. And I'm not saying I'm never going to compete in anything ever again, but at this point, I'm not. I don't plan to. I didn't do well with food because my mom needed me back sooner. Then, so I decided to drop out of that. It wasn't a need for me to go, so I didn't go. I went to Waco and I came back. And Imperial Pride was the last I had not done. And I do support I do support everybody that competes in pageants because I know that it takes time, money, effort, and sometimes it takes a lot more out of you than you realize. So I'm gonna let y'all go and just thought I'd give you some updates about me and why I don't do pageants anymore.